The stage lights of the voice burned brighter than usual that night. A strange hum of anticipation coursed through the audience, who had no idea what was about to unfold. For chairs spun around, not for a contestant this time, but for the legends themselves. Michael Bublé, smooth and composed, adjusted his velvet jacket, his eyes twinkling with playful mischief. Niall Horan grinned nervously, guitar in hand, running his thumb along the strings as though whispering secrets to it. Reba McEntire, glowing with her signature warmth, tipped her sparkling red hat at the crowd. And then there was Snoop Dogg, laid back, shades reflecting the stage lights, radiating that effortless cool the world had grown to adore. The band played the opening chords of Steve Miller Band's The Joker. The crowd gasped, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or scream. What business did these four, from completely different corners of music, have singing the same song? Michael stepped forward first, crooning the iconic opening lines in his honey-dipped baritone. The song, cheeky yet soulful, suddenly felt like a confession whispered across candlelight. Niall followed, his Irish twang adding youthfulness and charm. Reba's country soul lifted the melody higher, earthy yet eternal. And then Snoop stepped in, half rapping, half singing, bending the rhythm like only he could. The audience rose to their feet. It wasn't just music, it was an unlikely family being stitched together before their eyes. But behind the smiles and the chemistry, each performer carried a story hidden beneath the stage lights, and The Joker was more than a song. For each of them, it was a mirror of something deeper. Michael Bublé had been called the modern-day Sinatra, the king of romance, the man with the voice that could heal broken hearts. But as he sang the words, "I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight tokayer," his chest tightened. For him, humor had always been a shield. People saw the polished suits, the endless charm, the smooth croon that melted arenas, but they didn't see the sleepless nights when fear gnawed at him, especially after his son's illness. He'd worn a smile like armor, joked like it was oxygen, sang like each word could buy him a little more time against pain. On stage that night, he let his voice crack, just a little. Not enough for the audience to notice, but enough for his fellow coaches to glance at him knowingly. Singing, "Some People Call Me the Space Cowboy," wasn't just playful banter. It was Michael admitting that behind the polished image, he sometimes felt lost in space, grasping for meaning. Yet when Reba's harmonies lifted him, and Niall strummed gently behind him, Michael felt the weight ease. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't holding it all alone. The Joker wasn't just him, it was all of them, finding laughter in the dark. When it came time for Niall to take the lead, he swallowed hard. The crowd cheered, but in his mind, he was back to that first audition on the X Factor. A teenager with big dreams and little certainty. He had grown up fast, thrust into the whirlwind of One Direction. Millions screaming his name, but at night, silence echoing louder than any stadium. He had once felt like the least noticeable of the group, overshadowed by louder personalities, doubting if he had any voice worth listening to. But now, standing with Bublé, Reba, and Snoop, he strummed his guitar like it was his lifeline. Singing, "I'm a picker, I'm a grinner, I'm a lover, and I'm a sinner," he wasn't just repeating lyrics. He was telling the world, "I'm more than the boy from the band. I'm still finding myself, but I belong here." The moment his voice cracked into harmony with Reba's, something shifted. He saw a woman who had carved her way through country music with grit, a man who had survived Hollywood fame with humor, and a rapper who had turned pain into poetry. He wasn't just the kid anymore. He was their brother in this song, their equal. The guitar strings shimmered under his fingertips, and for once, Niall wasn't afraid of being seen. Reba's turn came with a soft hum, the kind only decades of storytelling could bring. When she opened her mouth, the crowd fell into reverent silence. Her voice wasn't about perfection, it was about truth. Every note carried the dust of country roads, the ache of love lost, the resilience of a woman who had endured storms and still stood tall. As she sang, "I'm a lover, I'm a sinner, I play my music in the sun," her eyes glistened. She thought of her late band members lost in that tragic plane crash, of the heartbreaks and triumphs, of the nights she had wondered if the music could carry her through grief. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out, first to Michael, then to Neil, and finally to Snoop. It wasn't planned, but instinct. She wove them together in a line, her voice anchoring theirs. In that moment, Reba wasn't just singing "The Joker." She was teaching them that music wasn't about genres or generations, it was about survival. About finding a way to laugh, love, and play under the sun, even when the night seemed endless. The crowd roared, some crying, some laughing, all caught in the spell of her raw sincerity. When Snoop stepped forward, the audience expected humor, maybe a freestyle rap, maybe even smoke machines. What they didn't expect was honesty. He leaned into the mic, dropping his voice low, almost like he was talking to a friend. "You know, they call me the gangster, the rapper, the dog. But really, I've been the Joker too. I've been the dreamer, the sinner, the man trying to keep his head straight when the world tried to twist it." The beat slowed, the band following his lead. For a brief moment, it wasn't Steve Miller Band anymore, it was Snoop Dogg rewriting the truth in his own rhythm. The crowd held its breath. Behind the shades, his eyes softened. He thought of the streets of Long Beach, the friends lost too soon, the moments he nearly didn't make it. Music had saved him, but so had humor. And tonight, standing next to Bublé, Neil, and Reba, he realized, family doesn't always look like blood. Sometimes it looks like music. He tipped his mic toward the crowd, urging them to sing with him. Thousands of voices joined in, "I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight tokayer." The four of them sang the final chorus together, their voices messy and imperfect but gloriously united. Michael's croon, Neil's youthful tenor, Reba's soulful grit, and Snoop's laid-back flow wove into something no one in the audience would ever forget. As the last note faded, they didn't bow like superstars. They embraced like family. The audience didn't just applaud. They screamed, they cried, they cheered, because they hadn't just witnessed a performance. They had witnessed a confession, a healing, a communion. And when the lights dimmed, the four of them looked at each other, smiling not as legends, not as coaches, but as humans. Jokers. Survivors. Dreamers.